The siren went off at exactly 6:41 a.m., and that's when I knew today wouldn't be normal. Sirens go off all the time in my city. Fire trucks, car alarms, the occasional tornado test. But this one was lower, hung in the air. I'd just dropped 2 eggs into a pan, one already cracked because I was rushing, and I felt this weird tightness in my chest, like I was waiting for the phone to ring with bad news. The TV said it was nothing, a scheduled citywide systems test, according to the news crawl. But outside, there was a military van parked in front of my neighbor's driveway. Not just any van, one of those camo green ones, blacked out windows, nobody inside. It had sat there all night, engine running, driver gone. There was a tiny puddle of something thick and dark under the wheel, maybe oil, maybe not. I watched it from my window as I stood there, spatula in one hand, waiting for something to happen. People were outside, but not like usual. My neighbor, Mr. Halloran, shuffled his trash cans to the curb in his slippers, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. Someone down the street was coughing, a lot, deep, wet coughs that echoed then stopped abruptly. My phone vibrated with an alert, but when I checked it was blank, no message, no push notification, just a sudden jolt, like a ghost hand reaching through the glass. I tried to call my girlfriend, Julia. She was supposed to be at her night shift at the ER, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Her parents' line, too. Then, after 2 tries, my phone dropped signal completely. Full bars 1 second, nothing the next. When I went back to the window, the van was still there. The puddle under it had gotten bigger. Around 10 a.m., the power flickered. My laptop kicked me off my meeting. I texted my group chat. Anyone else's internet dead? Nobody responded. My neighbor, the old guy, started banging on his own front door from inside. I saw his silhouette through the curtain, fists slamming. No one opened. After a while, the banging stopped. A streak of blood appeared on the inside of the glass. That's when I stopped watching. News updates started contradicting themselves. One channel said it was a weather emergency. Another said there'd been an incident at the army base west of town, but not to worry. The scroll at the bottom of every station just repeated, "Please remain calm, stay in your homes. Do not approach unfamiliar persons." The emergency alert tone played again, over and over. It felt like the world was buffering, stuck in a loop. By noon, it was silent. No more sirens, no cars moving, not even birds. That silence felt like a threat. When I tried to walk outside to get some air, I heard the military van's engine idle louder, like it was warning me. I went back inside, double-locked the door, slid the deadbolt for the first time in a year. Julia still wasn't answering. I peeked out at the street. A woman I didn't know, red jacket, jogging, headphones, stopped by the van. She bent down to look at the puddle. I couldn't see her face. After a few seconds, she stood up and started walking again, but something about her gait was wrong. She was limping, or maybe her leg was just stiff. She passed my window and glanced up. Her eyes were too wide, like she'd just seen a ghost. I ducked. When I peeked back, she was gone. At that point, I started pulling furniture against the door. It felt ridiculous. I'm not a prepper. I've never even changed my own tire. But my hands moved without me thinking, stacking chairs, wedging a broom across the back door. I called Julia's best friend. No answer. Texted my boss. Out sick. Not sure when I'll be back. That made it feel real. I checked every window twice, unplugged the TV, took the batteries out of my smoke detector just in case the next weird sound came from that. Somewhere upstairs, something thumped. Maybe a raccoon in the attic, maybe a branch. But my heart started hammering so hard I had to sit on the stairs and breathe into my hands. I kept thinking about the van, the woman with the limp, the blood on Mr. Halloran's window. Every part of me screamed for Julia to text back. As night started to fall, I turned off every light. The house was full of shadows. My hands shook as I pushed my old dresser across my bedroom door. It didn't make sense. I lived alone. I wasn't expecting anyone. But in the dark, every shadow looked like a figure moving. The emergency broadcast played again, this time just static and the same voice. The military is working to restore order. Stay inside. Lock your doors. Help is on the way. That was the last time I heard anything from the outside. The van outside finally went silent. I checked every door, every window, every inch of the house. Then I just waited, hoping the world would come back on. It started with a knock, not the kind you ignore. This was heavy, too hard for a neighbor, too steady for a delivery. It shook the door in its frame. I was sitting on the living room floor, knees pulled to my chest, flashlight gripped so tight my hand was numb. For a minute I didn't move. But the knock came again, louder, and then a voice, almost normal, just a little off. Let me in. I almost opened the door. Then I saw the military van through the peephole. It was empty. The puddle had turned into a smear trailing away into the street. There were footprints, smeared and dark. I called out, "Who is it?" The voice didn't answer this time. I stood, heart pounding, and watched the shadow under the door. It didn't move. I backed away and the knocking finally stopped. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. The screen was black, battery dead. It didn't matter. I knew nobody would answer. I heard glass shatter somewhere up the street. Then the screaming started. Not just one voice, more, deep, ragged, desperate. I turned off my flashlight, crawled into the kitchen, and curled up behind the island. I stayed there for what felt like hours, listening to the chaos outside. Then it went quiet, all at once. The kind of quiet that makes you wish for noise. I forced myself to crawl back to the front window. The street lights were flickering. Shapes moved in the dark. People, I thought. But they moved too stiff, too fast, heads twitching like they were tracking something only they could see. One of them stopped in front of my house. It was the woman in the red jacket, blood down her sleeve, limping harder now. She pressed her face to my window. Her eyes met mine. Her mouth opened, too wide like her jaw was unhinged. She didn't scream. She just watched me. I dropped to the floor. Next door, a crash. Mr. Halloran's door was open. A figure stumbled out, bloody and wild. The woman in the red jacket turned, sprinted at him, tackled him hard into the lawn. There was no screaming, just the wet sound of teeth on flesh. I turned away, pressed my hands over my ears. When I looked back, the lawn was empty. I ran to the basement. My old softball bat was still there from high school, leaning against the dryer. I grabbed it. The lights flickered again, then went out for good. I heard footsteps upstairs, fast and erratic. Someone banged on the basement door. I held my breath, bracing for it to break. But the banging stopped. Whoever it was must have moved on, or lost interest, or worse. I stayed there until the sun came up. When I finally went back upstairs, the living room window was cracked. There were handprints, bloody, smeared, everywhere. I thought about Julia. I checked my phone again out of habit. Dead. I cried for the first time since I was a kid. It wasn't just about infection anymore, that was clear. I saw it in their faces. People I knew, neighbors, the mailman, even the old crossing guard, turned into something else. The news was wrong. The army never came back. No one did. I was alone, and I had no idea what was coming next. By midday, the house was too quiet. Every noise made me jump. I heard something moving in the attic. I had to make a choice, wait here or leave. I remembered the emergency alert, stay inside. But that voice was gone now. The rules had changed. I packed a backpack, water, snacks, flashlight, the bat. I took one last look at my house, at the couch where Julia and I used to watch movies. The stupid lamp she always said was ugly. I forced myself to walk out the back door. The street looked like another planet, Cars were wrecked, doors hanging open, suitcases spilled on the sidewalk. A dog trotted down the middle of the road, collar jangling, blood on its fur. I headed for the woods behind my house. It wasn't safe, but nowhere was. I just kept moving, one foot in front of the other, praying I wouldn't run into anyone or anything, and that if Julia was out there, she was still herself. You don't realize how thin your limits are until you have to test them. I kept to the tree line behind the houses, moving quick, bat in my hand. Every shadow was a threat. Every shape might be something hungry. I thought I heard Julia's voice once calling from somewhere in the dark, but when I froze and listened, it was just the wind scraping against the broken siding of someone's shed. A few blocks away, I found another survivor, Eddie, the kid who used to mow our lawn in the summers, now looking older and wild-eyed. He waved me down from behind a dumpster, clutching a rusty crowbar. His shirt was stained with blood, but he said it wasn't his. We didn't trust each other, but we didn't have to. We were all there was. We found a boarded-up liquor store. The windows were cracked, but it was shelter, at least for a night. I helped Eddie pile cases against the door. He didn't talk much. At midnight, we heard something try the lock, scratching at the glass, then moving away. The world outside was all dark shapes and sudden movements. I slept in fits, dreams full of sirens and red jackets. When I woke, Eddie was gone. The back door hung open. I nearly ran after him, but something in the alley caught my eye. A trail of blood, ending at a backpack. Not his, Julia's. I didn't even think. I snatched it, checked inside. Just a water bottle, an old ER badge, and her phone, cracked and dead. That's when I knew. She'd been here. Maybe still was. Maybe changed. I kept moving, driven by something between hope and dread. I saw what people had become and what they did to each other. I had to kill once, a man who ran at me screaming, blood pouring from his mouth. I swung the bat and he went down, but I knew he wasn't the last. Every place that felt safe, church, school, even my old apartment, was full of monsters or barricaded bodies. I heard someone sobbing inside a laundromat, begging for help, but I kept walking. There's only so much you can do before you're the one banging on locked doors. When I found Julia, it wasn't what I'd hoped. She was standing in the street, head tilted, eyes glazed. She stared right through me. I called her name. She turned, slow and jerky. Something in me shattered. I ran. I don't remember dropping the bat, just the sound of my own breathing and her feet scraping after me. I made it out, but not whole, not the same. I limped for hours, my leg torn from a broken fence, bleeding into my sock. Every time I looked back, Julia was gone. Or maybe she was still following, out of sight, patient as the new world. By nightfall, the city was burning. Shelters failed. Fires leapt from building to building, lighting the sky orange and sick. I stumbled along the highway, past crashed cars and lost faces. At some point, I stopped looking for survivors. I just kept moving. Now, the road ahead is empty. Not hopeful, not doomed, just different. I walk because there's nothing else left. The old rules are gone. I don't know what I'll find, but I know I'm not who I was, and neither is anyone else. If you made it this far, remember, the world changes fast. Lock your doors, watch the shadows, and if you ever hear the sirens again, don't wait for help. This is Dark Whispers. Stay alert, stay alive.